were already eaten into their final. A little bit about this class. This class is centered around the Constitution. It asks these students to do things that most students in this building aren't asked to do. Most students in most buildings aren't asked to do. They have to select 2 units. They get the choice over those that they're going to have their final on. The judges get to select which one paper out of the 3 that they have prepared to write. The first unit that they chose was Unit 2, which is about the founding of our Constitution and the ratification process, Federalist and Anti-Federalist debates, and basically just how we got this document. So they're going to be asked to read a paper that they prepared. Then after that, they have to answer questions that these judges will be asking them, and they cannot use anything. They can't have their papers out, they have no books, no note cards. So that is what this final is about for them. So I'm going to have the judges introduce themselves briefly, the students can introduce themselves briefly, and then we'll get on with Unit 2. There's going to be a brief pause so the judges can go ahead and tally their scores for Unit 2, and then we'll get on Unit 5.
Hi, my name is Tina Barr. I teach English and reading. I've been a judge for We the People for a couple of years now. I also am the class of 2020 sponsor for the juniors. I am also a representative from the American Legion Post 369 for the Women's Auxiliary. We're big on the Constitution, and I do offer scholarships and other incentives. So I wish you guys the best. This is something near and dear to my heart. So and reading, I've been a judge.
Okay, my name is Gail Hammer, and I am a Spanish teacher here at Central. And I'm a sponsor, one of the sponsors of Spanish Club. And I'm curious about this. This is my first time doing this, but I'm open-minded and I'm hoping to hear some really informative information from you.
My name is Loreto Gutierrez. I'm also a Spanish teacher here at East Chicago Central High School. And this is my first time judging. Good luck, guys.
Oh, I'm Eliani, and I'm glad I joined this class, even though it wasn't more or less my decision. It was a fun class to join. You get to speak your mind and everything. Hi, my name is Deborah. When I joined this class, it was really interesting to know what the Constitution can do for us and the rights of citizens, so it's interesting to get to know that.
Hi, my name is Kyra Thomas. I'm a junior. I participate in the dance team and band. I took We the People because I feel like it is a very interesting class and keep you informed. It's very interesting to be able to speak your mind and be educated at the same time. I enjoy this class. I have gotten very close with my classmates.
Hi, my name is Omar. I'm a senior. I joined this class because it's freshman year. It's worth it to tell me to join. So I decided my senior year to join, and yeah, I don't regret it.
I'm Makaya, and I joined this class because the sports actually invited me to the class when I was a freshman, and so I've enjoyed it.
Hi, I'm Charlotte, and I'm a sophomore, and I joined this class because it would be something new.
You guys chose Unit 2. Is how does the Constitution limit government power to protect individual rights while promoting the common goal? Good.
The Constitution limits government powers to protect individual rights while promoting the common good. One way the Constitution limits government power is by the system of checks and balances. The purpose of checks and balances is to limit the power of the legislative branch to avoid tyranny of the government's power. Checks and balances were developed to evenly distribute and balance the powers of government among the different branches so an individual or one of the branches cannot dominate each other.
The Constitution also limits government power by a system of majority rule. Majority rule helps limit government powers by transferring the power to the people who can use their vote or right to contact their representatives in Congress to get what they want. For example, before the Civil Rights Movement, there were Jim Crow laws that enforced segregation. This was able to occur because the majority of Southern people thought that it was right and it served in their favor. However, it violated majority rights. Another solution that the Constitution provides is rule of law. Rule of law says that everyone has to follow the law, even public officials.
The Federalists and Anti-Federalists disagree on whether the Constitution sufficiently protected individual rights and promoted the common good. The Federalists agree that the rights and welfare of all are protected by the complicated system of representation, separation of powers, checks and balances, and federalism that the Constitution created. Anti-Federalists agree that the celebrated system of checks and balances among the branches could be turned against the people's liberties. Federalists believe that the factions would work within a society. According to Madison and Federalist 10, factions would solve the issue of nation size, which would help promote the common good. This is because there would be many factions that not one could have a clear majority or become supreme.
Anti-Federalists believe that the Constitution would create a government that the people could not control. They argue that the size and diversity of the United States were exactly the opposite of a homogeneous small republic. The Anti-Federalists also objected because it did not include the Bill of Rights. Federalists believed they did not need a Bill of Rights because adding a Bill of Rights would imply that the national government had powers that the Constitution did not give it, and state constitutions also provided a Bill of Rights. Another reason for objection is because of the necessary and proper clause, which Anti-Federalists argued would give too much power to the legislative branch. Federalists argue that the Constitution allowed Congress to use only their enumerated powers.
Citizens have responsibilities for seeing the individual rights are protected and the common good is promoted. One responsibility that citizens have for seeing that individual rights are protected and the common good is promoted is by voting. It is our civic duty to vote and support our representatives. This protects individual rights. Citizens are able to elect someone they think will provide for and protect our country. It promotes the common good by allowing us to make a decision as a union and a country to make it a better and more productive place.
Citizens also have the duty to obey laws, pay taxes, and serve on juries. Obeying laws is important for some type of authority to control the people to prevent chaos. Paying taxes is helpful, as well as for services that can be protect people, such as military, fire departments, and police officers. Serving on juries can give the opportunity of judgment for the people that is fair and orderly. As Albert Einstein stated, it is important for the common good to give the fostering of individuality, for the individual can produce the new ideas which the community needs for its continuous improvements and requirements. We are now finished with the papers and ready to answer your questions.
How is the Constitution designed to limit the power of government in order to protect individual rights?
The Constitution is created to limit people's rights because everyone in the government can't always do what they want. So we needed some type of document for the United States.
I have a quick question. It's not on here. You said you were talking about limiting the rights with checks and balances. So let's say you guys have a good historical concept of what was going on now. Let's bring it into contemporary setting. Do you believe checks and balances is now in effect? Is it effectively working? Or do you think something needs to be put in place?
I feel as though checks and balances is works very well. I think that it definitely is in place and that it does not need to be improved. I feel like if it would have needed to be improved, then one of our branches would have consumed the other by now, considering how long the document has been out and how long checks and balances have been in place. I think that what it was made for was to stop another branch from powering another one, and it's doing exactly that.
I feel that the current system of checks and balances is in place, even though the media does not always cover it in such a way. There is the Senate and the House of Representatives that are stopping the current president at a lot of his controversial bills that are trying to be passed. They are attempting to stop him, and recently in the midterm election, they did, the Democrats did take over the House of Representatives, even though the Republicans still take majority over the Senate.
They still have a distrust of the national government. Are they right in being concerned?
We do have the right to be concerned for the government because we the people do run the government. We run the government, so I feel like we should know what's going on behind the doors. We should know what they're doing, what laws are putting out.
I agree with my colleague Omar because a lot of people, they don't trust the government, and they have a lot of reasoning because sometimes the government passes laws that doesn't really help out us citizens. It's more to them, beneficial for them. And so I think that when people don't trust the government and they think that they're not helping us and they're helping themselves, I feel like we do have that right to feel that way.
People are the government, they don't trust the government, but that's because they're more or less misinformed about certain topics. Not that they aren't, that the information isn't readily available, they just choose not to look for it, or it isn't available in most public mainstream media accounts.
Or fake news,
Sure.
You guys had mentioned in your paper about using your vote to have your voice heard. We also talked about distrusting the government. Are they actually listening? So my question is, do you think most people are using their vote responsibly? Because you guys said it was a responsibility. Are they using their vote responsibly, or are they relying, like you keep going back to how the news is informing, like one side shows one side, another shows another side? And if the majority, because that's what this is saying one thing, but the government is doing another thing, what is the responsibility to do?
I feel like the responsibility that us people need to do is to be more informed in what kind of bills or what kind of people we're voting for. I think that's what it falls on us because we're not getting informed. We're not trying to get informed on who's running, and I believe that's one thing that us citizens are failing to do.
Who's us?
The citizens.
How old? Is there age limit?
Yes, 18 and older.
Okay, so 16-year-olds have nothing to do with the U.S. government.
Yes, we do. I think our parents are the ones that have the right to vote for us.
Currently, how things stand, we are all constituents of our current representatives and senators, so we do have that right to send our opinions and voice our opinions to them directly through emails, letters, other forms of media. It doesn't mean they always listen, but if enough people do have the similar opinion, they cannot ignore us because we are their constituents. They cannot ignore us and not give us what we demand as a whole or as a majority.
Just so that you guys know, 11 to 23-year-olds have the most economic power in the United States and in the world. Just saying.
I would like to add that I'm going to sleep, but time is up. So,
Okay. Great.
All right, at this time. At this time, the judges are going to tally. They can put their papers away. We'll be right back, probably in the next minute or two.
We will only offer what you say you want and what you sign up for. So if you're tired of the usual social studies things, let's go for the more exciting class. That's right. It's not automatically go. Oh, and when you go down to state, you go to Indianapolis and you stay for a few days and you compete and they house you. And it's an enjoyable few days down there. It's pretty awesome.
I was actually a judge at the National We the People. I was a judge at the National.
You guys Miss Barr, this is a chance for your shameless plug for state for the summer.
hello.
Ms. Alexander, are you ready? Okay. So for the Unit 5 that they chose, Unit 5 is all about the Bill of Rights and how those Bill of Rights impact us and the challenges to the Bill of Rights today, since this is a document that was written 200 some years ago.
All right. What fundamental American values are embodied in the Fourth Amendment?
There are fundamental American values embodied in the Fourth Amendment. The values are the privacy to oneself, property, papers, and personal effects from unreasonable searches and seizures. It prohibits general warrants, requires probable cause upon applications for warrants, requires a judge or a magistrate to decide whether probable cause exists, and requires applications for warrants to detail the place to be searched and persons or things to be seized. Courts have seen the Fourth Amendment as protecting reasonable expectations of privacy, even if the amendment does not specifically state. Protecting instructions by the government officials is a very deep value that is held in the United States. In the Supreme Court case of Mappy versus Ohio, Mapp's house was being searched for a bombing suspect. In the course of the search, the officers failed to produce a valid search warrant. While the suspect was not found, officers discovered illegal pornography in Mapp's home. She was then charged and convicted of having illegal pornography. The Supreme Court ruled that illegal obtained evidence is not admissible in the state courts. She was set free because of improper police conduct.
Fourth Amendment issues have been a persistent concern from colonial times until today. Since colonial times, the Fourth Amendment allows the government to search personal effects, homes, and even oneself with probable cause. It has caused anxiety within a citizen because they can easily be searched with just probable cause. Supreme Court Justice Robert Jackson stressed the importance to a free society of the protections against unreasonable searches and seizures. He said, among the deprivation of rights, none is so effective in cowing a population, crushing the spirit of the individual, and putting terror in every heart as uncontrolled search and seizure. It is one of the first and most effective weapons in the arsenal of every arbitrary government.
Another concern that occurred in the colonial times was when officials would use search warrants to collect taxes to recover stolen goods, including slaves, and to prosecute persons they believed had violated British trade restrictions by smuggling tea and other products into the colonies. Abraham Holmes, a delegate to the Massachusetts Ratifying Convention, said there is no provision made in the Constitution to prevent the most innocent person from being taken by virtue of general warrant and dragged from his home.
Modern technology raises new concerns about the Fourth Amendment. Modern technology can be a great concern because government officials can use it to their advantage. They could easily hack into one's system and find out their locations, what they have been doing, or with whom they have been in contact with. The Fourth Amendment has not been updated with technology, which allows government officials to perform searches and surveillances in ways that were not possible before.
For example, the National Security Agency is responsible for global monitoring, collection, and processing of the information and data for foreign intelligence and counterintelligence purposes. They have surveillance on our cell phones to make sure there is no illegal activity can endanger the country. Supreme Court cases Day versus Jones is an example of how modern technology raises concerns in the Fourth Amendment. Government officials use the GPS tracking device on the defendant's vehicle.
The device was used to monitor the car's whereabouts. Jones was then suspected of drug trafficking. The GPS also showed evidence that Jones was tied to a stash house that contained $850,000 in cash, 97 kilograms of cocaine, and 1 kilogram of cocaine vape. The justices then ruled that it violated the Fourth Amendment. Government officials installed that GPS in Jones' vehicle without a valid search warrant.
I have a quick question. Can you hear me? Can you hear me now? Okay. Now you're talking about using GPS, right? You guys know how phones are working, right? You have to allow them to do it. So for unreasonable search and seizures, you do not have to allow law enforcement into your house. But if they knock on your door and ask you to come in, then they can come in, and whatever's in plain sight, that could be used against you, correct? So when you're using GPS, you're allowing location services. So that's kind of like public domain. How do you guys personally feel about that? Because you've already said, yes, I'm using the public system. I'm using toll roll cameras. I'm using the transponders. Is that something private or is that public? Because if it's public, do law enforcement and the government have a right to access your data, whatever you're posting, or is that still your private domain because you have to invite friends unless you make it public?
Well, when you put things out on the internet, you really don't have privacy. So if you put something on the internet that you feel is private, then you really should have never put it on the internet.
I agree with my colleague Charlene. I feel the exact same way, including with the GPS. Like, if they're going to track you, you're going somewhere, then you should be going somewhere you should be. So either way, it's public because you and other people know about it.
I have to disagree with my colleagues. I feel like it's very private. I feel like, yes, the GPS is very covered. If you use GPS, you should be aware and cautious of things that you do. But at the same time, like you said, it's just like how you can invite a friend over and make that private. If you invite a friend over to your home is still private and it's still yours. But once your friends cross that door, it becomes a public place for you and your friend. It's still your home, but now you have other people in it. So I feel like with the GPS situation, I feel like it's still a private thing. Like the police officers shouldn't be allowed to track you just because they feel like it. I feel like that still needs to be a warrant where proper calls need to be shown, even to just track my recent whereabouts on my GPS.
Expectation of privacy should be still when you're in a public place.
Yes.
Sir William Blackstone said that it is better that 9 guilty men go free than 1 innocent person suffer. What is he saying, and do you agree?
Yes, I agree to what he's saying because I feel like it's not fair that an innocent goes to jail for something that he didn't do. And I feel like, although it's wrong that guilty men go on free, I feel like it's more injustice if an innocent man goes to jail for something he didn't do.
Minors who are tried in juvenile court are not the same as adults. For example, the terms are not public. Minors who are tried. Yeah. Okay. Minors who are tried in juvenile court are not the same as adults. For example, their trials are not public. Why do you think that this is done? How else are juvenile trials different than adult trials?
Juvenile court are different from adults because number one, juveniles, they are underage, and adults, they can handle themselves. Children who are juveniles cannot handle themselves. They also have parents there with them.
My colleague said, I feel like the reason that juveniles court cases are, to add on to what my colleague said, I feel like that juvenile court cases are kept, I want to say not public, because I feel like as a juvenile, when you're young, you're not necessarily full of age to the point where you can understand your responsibilities and your laws. You might have broken a law that they feel like you haven't reached the age to understand the necessity of that law. I feel like that if you be a juvenile, it should not be held against you. That's why those court cases are kept closed, because I feel like as a juvenile, you might not want something that you did in the past that you learned from to stop you from being greater in the future.
So if you're 13 and you kill someone, you don't understand the law?
I don't think necessarily that you don't understand the law. I think necessarily that 13-year-old has been abused, or maybe has been raised upon that way. Maybe they've been raised upon violence or murder. I'm not saying that what the 13-year-old did is acceptable, but I'm also saying that what the 13-year-old did is like juvenile that 13-year-old shouldn't go to Cook County because it's too much for that 13-year-old. It's just like you get into a fight at 13. Just because you got into a fight don't mean that you're necessarily a criminal. I just had a misunderstanding that you didn't know how to take care of at that time and place. You didn't know the better situation, the better way to handle it, and now you do. So I feel like juvenile is rehabilitation.
Okay, so that's their final. They're done. So they can relax. They can actually take off their mics. They can come down and meet with their parents. There's refreshment over there for them and their parents, so that you guys can mingle and, I don't know, congratulate them, brag about them.